You're listening to Charting the Future, a podcast for independent pediatricians by PCC. For more information about our software and services, please visit www.pcc.com or visit us on social media.
Okay, welcome back, friends. I've got an old friend with me today, Dr. Una, who I've known before she was Dr. Una, when she was meek and mild Dr. Una. Remember those days?
Meek and mild. Well, no, I don't know about mild.
No, I don't know about meek. But Dr. Una and I have been friends, 10, 15 years plus. I was skinny. She has a practice that she's going to tell you about. And I've invited her here for a couple reasons. One of which is she has this wonderful little practice. But Dr. Una, for those who don't know, I don't know what the number is. Half the listeners know who you are. All right. And then there's a whole group of listeners who are about to be introduced to you. And we're going to hear from both of those people today. So, Dr. Una, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is a treat. I've been looking forward to this.
Well, actually, I've been on your podcast a couple times, so this is like the first time I've had someone come to ours that I haven't had before. So this will be fun. So tell me, please, tell our audience, tell us about how you became a pediatrician. Tell me about your practice.
Okay, so the funny part about the pediatrician piece is when I was in medical school and people are like, well, what do you want to be ultimately after medical school? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm sure I don't want to be a pediatrician.
Right.
And so, that's what I said. I wanted to be an OBGYN initially, but, the overnight life for the rest of my life was just not compatible with where I was going. So I was like, where else could I find the mommies? And it was pediatrics. And so that's how I landed up there. But I went to medical school in Nigeria. I did my training in Newark, Beth Israel, New Jersey. And when I was done with that, I moved to Georgia for my first job. And, this was a very exciting time, right? We've been running at full speed for over a decade to get to this place. I remember, when I had my first day at work, got in, saw the patient, and, they had ringworm or something like that, wrote the prescription, walked out of the room like I'm the attending, right? And I expected that, wow, it would be this magical experience and all of that. But I remember walking out of the room and had this very anticlimactic feeling. And I was actually confused by it. I was like, wait, this is not the reaction I'm supposed to be getting here. And in that moment, I remember, thinking like, so I've been running my whole life and I got here and that's it. Like, I'm going to do what I did 20 times a day till I'm 65, 70. Like, it can't be. There has to be something else. And so at that point, I had no context of what something else was. Entrepreneurship was not a thing that I was thinking about. Didn't know. My dad was a physician and he did the doctor thing till the day he died. That was my understanding of what a doctor did. But I remember in that moment saying, I'm going to give this thing 10 years. I can't. There has to be something else. And so after that, a mentor of mine, after that, my boss gave me a contract for a 5-year contract. I'm 9 months into my job. He gave me a 5-year contract. He's like, I've really liked working with you. Like, why don't we do this? He pulled out a 5-year contract. And I remember thinking then, I had done residency for 3 years. I'd been married for 3 years. My definition of forever was 3 years. And so I was like, 5 years,
That's forever.
That's forever
right.
And ever, right? And so, but I was moving anyway. So I said, I'm moving. My family were moving to a place that's an hour away. So I'm not going to be able to stay anyway. And then so he said something that was a defining moment for me. He says, well, then start your own practice. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody starts a private practice, a year out of residency or whatever. And and like, in case you missed this very big bump here, I'm pregnant. Like, this is not the time to start a practice. And he said, like, you're already doing everything you're going to do here, so you'll be okay. And then he said, the baby will need you a lot in the beginning. The practice won't need you as much. And the baby's older and the baby needs you less. The practice will need you more. So it'll be just perfect. Like, this is the perfect time to have a practice. I like to say, I was like, yes, let's do it. This is amazing. But that's not what happened at all. But the seed had been planted, right? I didn't really do anything with it.
Couldn't get it out of your head.
Yeah, I couldn't get it out of my head. But again, for context, at this point, this is pre-Mika Mild Dr. Una, according to you, right?
Yep.
This is before that. This is socially awkward, super shy, introverted introvert Dr. Una. Like, there's no way like I would be an entrepreneur. And so then a mentor of mine a few months later came, was talking to my husband and I. It's like, it's time for you guys to start thinking about starting your own business. You can't just work the job forever. And so at that point, I was like, okay, fine. I started looking at websites, looking at pediatric websites. What do they offer? What don't they offer? Started looking at their reviews. What do people like? What do people not like? We started looking for locations. And I remember seeing all these locations that required big build outs and all. I was like, Lord, you have to help me, because I can't stomach the fact that I would spend 50 grand or whatever building a place that's not mine. Like, I don't even know what that means. I don't like construction. I like finished products, right? So eventually found a place that an OBGYN, moved out of, and that, and then we leased that place. So I thought I would hang the shingle and they would come and I'll live happily ever after. That was my thought process. And so we got the lease, we signed up for all the things, started, contracting with insurance companies and all of that stuff. And after doing that, I was like, the patients are going to start coming.
If only.
I will hang the shingle and they will come. I hung that shingle. They did not come. I was terrified. If I didn't have contracts, if I didn't have a lease, if I hadn't signed up for all these things, I would have backed out. If I knew I would have to promote, market my practice, talk to people, build relationships with referral bases and stuff. If I knew that, there's no way I would have started a practice. It was a case of ignorance, pure ignorance. So my husband's like, yeah, like, do you get all the patients you want? Your job is to get all the patients you want. And I was like, but I have to go talk to people. I was terrified. Like, even office managers, I was terrified of talking to them. It was so crazy. But then I read a book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog. And in that book, it said that all business skills are learnable. That was a turning point of turning points for me. Because I remember thinking, okay, I don't know how to market. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to network. I don't know how to do any of these things. But as a physician, if there's anything I know how to do, I know how to learn. That I have that down.
Yep.
And so it took me from this place of, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm not the kind of person to do this, to this place of, I just haven't learned this. Which put me back in the driver's seat, put me back in control. I was like, okay, so we're going to learn how to hire. We're going to learn how to do all this other stuff. And it's going to be amazing. And so then I started learning, right? How do you market? How do you network? How do you hire? Because when I started my practice, Chip, I think I've told you this. When I started my practice, I didn't hire anybody. I didn't even think an MA will follow me, because I was like, they will see how confused I was and I didn't have things together, whatever. So I answered my own phones. I worked up my own patients. I saw them as the doctor. I gave my own shots and I did the billing myself.
I remember that.
Completely crazy.
Yes.
Completely crazy. And so I started learning even the concept of the people you need to collaborate with to pull it off, right? Because the first time I talked to you guys at PCC, it was 2 years later that I signed up, because I was just like, what? I can't do that. It took me a minute, but I got it. I got it. And then we went from that to a fully functional, thriving practice that works really well without me, a practice that thrived during the pandemic, a practice that thrived during the Great Resignation, and all of those things. I wouldn't trade that for anything. But it's a lot of the starting point of the transformation is me changing. Me realizing I have to retool myself. Being a great clinician has nothing to do with running a thriving practice. Those are two completely separate things.
I think I have said those words on your podcast. Just because you went to med school doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And you said the thing that I think is so important, that a lot of professionals get to the point where they said, look, I've checked all the boxes. I've done everything right for years. Now the world needs to revolve around me. And it does not. It never has and never will. The moment you understand this is something I have to change, it gives you control.
And a lot of control. And if it accidentally works and you didn't make the transition, it will not survive the storms, right? Like, so if it accidentally worked and then there's a COVID, because the type of CEO it takes to lead a company through that, you just never became that person.
I tell people, when I say people, like who else do I talk to? Pediatricians. I tell pediatricians all the time, the reason that you may have never had to make any changes is because if you go see 20 patients a day, 4 days a week, you're going to generate $600,000 or $700,000, and that covers up a lot of mistakes. But Change Healthcare comes along and doesn't pay you for 3 months, and COVID comes along, and now you have no moat around that castle. But what a CEO does is looks ahead and says, all right, how do I build this moat deeper, wider? How do I make sure I have enough food in the basement to get through a cold winter? I mean, I'm saying like this to Una as though she doesn't know, but that's like, you and I preach to each other every time we talk, because
we do. And it's interesting that you bring that up, right? Like, the reason why you can get away with it is because you're seeing 20 patients, you're bringing $600,000. I actually use that to show people, like, I know the insurance companies are doing what the insurance companies do, but we are as problematic as the CEOs of our practices. Because I did an experiment there's the book I wrote, the Profitable Private Practice Playbook. It's scenario based, right? So I made up Dr. Ebony to show 7 ways private practice owners leave money on the table every single day. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I'm like, yes, the insurance companies are doing what they're doing. And once we have enough empowered voices, we'll go after them. But in the meantime, there are many things we can fix starting today, like not collecting copays, not collecting deductibles, not collecting co-insurance, not collecting old balances, never meeting with the biller, not having any clue what the AR report means or what those numbers mean, right? Having team members, but it's not clear how the team members generate revenue. We know how they serve, but we don't know how they earn. So there's so much money left on the table that if we would learn the skill, we can thrive better on our way to taking care of the insurance companies, right? Like, so, so the point, like, being a great clinician is amazing, but to have a thriving practice that helps a lot of people while creating financial freedom and time freedom to you requires becoming a CEO. And you don't carry over any credits from medical school. This is a whole new body of learning.
You start the same place everyone else does.
As everyone else. You start over. And as doctors, sometimes, I mean, I think I felt like that when I was done. Like, I've paid my dues. I'm done. Right?
No. Like, no.
But you're not.
But you have 2 things though. When you come, 2 or 3 things when you come out of med school as a doctor. Number one, you've already, like, talking to you is so easy because you get it. Like, number one, you've learned how to learn, which is gives you, your 100-yard dash. You've already started on the 25th yard line. All right. Maybe more. You have the ability to work for someone for those first couple of years and generate a huge amount of revenue. There is no other profession, not even being an attorney really, where you can just get out. Maybe you can't hang a shingle, but someone will pay you a lot of money to see patients. And I think you have other skills that are transferable, that make it possible, but you still have to hustle. That's a lot of people feel like, I did my hard work, chief resident. Look at me. No one cares what your GPA was when you go to get that lease. You can't put your GPA on a paycheck. And, but what you can do is you can put your brain and your pediatric culture to work. And that's something that's got huge value.
Yeah. And I think truthfully, because I've thought about it, becoming an entrepreneur is actually a lot easier than becoming a doctor. Like, so the hard work is done. I think what makes it really hard is resisting reality, right? I don't want to have to learn that. I don't want to have to, like, I want to have a practice, but I don't like marketing. I'm like, it's a combo package. They come together. Like you cannot separate these things.
You can't.
You know what I mean?
You don't own if you're not marketing, you don't own your practice. That's called working for someone
That's
else.
called working for somebody, right?
Yeah.
So it is the resistance. I don't want to learn to hire people. I don't want to lead a team. I don't want to look at profit and loss statements. I don't want to. I think that's what makes it really hard. Once we come to this space of I will do what is required, so much easier. Because everything just becomes a project. I have to learn how to do that. I have to learn how to do this. I need to put enough reps in this till I become comfortable with it, right? Like it's easy. It's the resistance that makes it so painful.
Yeah.
So
and
I shouldn't have to read a book. I shouldn't have to go for a conference. No, yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah. Well, look, there are people who are suffering real should-haves, real shouldn't have to's right now. Going to read a book and making a change and learning is a very small. That's like this step on your stairwell is this big. So so tell us. Well, actually, before we go into the second half of the story, I want to ask my couple of my typical questions. So right now, wearing just your pediatric owner hat, what's making you nervous or anxious? What's causing you to lose sleep at night as a pediatrician?
So first of all, I don't allow myself to lose sleep.
Of course, I mean,
but so it's not necessarily a problem now. I think what I'm thinking of is what is the next iteration of private practice in the insurance model? What does that look like? Does it look like a hybrid? Does it look like congruent businesses? So for instance, what I mean is you have a pediatric practice, but you have a membership for wellness, or you have a membership for something else. Or for someone like me, I really think outside the box. I'm like, okay, you have all these kids that this is prime time for them to learn leadership and for them to learn entrepreneurship and personal development. And I'm a big fan of that because I'm like, I had one of the best educations in the world. I'm a whole physician, but I came out of school training. I had to learn all these other things that I had no clue about. I was like, what if they could learn it early? So what if you had a leadership academy with your practice? Like, is changing so rapidly that I in 10 years, I don't think practice will look anything like what it is now. I wonder what that is so I can position myself and help my people make that transition. So it's really out of the box, searching for what the future would look like and coming back today to position myself for it. Yeah, but I know if we don't evolve and adapt, there are going to be some serious problems on the horizon. The world is changing a little too quickly.
The thing I like about your answer is also the thing I don't like about your answer, which is that if I had asked you that question 10 years ago, you could have said the same thing and you'd still be right. And in 10 years, what you just said will still be right. I'm ingesting what you had to say. But all right, okay. So now, as a pediatrician, though, what are you looking forward to? What excites you? What good news do we have in our business?
As a pediatrician, as a practice owner.
Actually, you know what? I tell everyone, you can answer it however you want. But, whatever perspective you have, just make it clear what perspective you're giving us. That's all.
As a practice owner, I think what excites me is, and this would be specifically for my practice, is being able to build what I consider my practice a healthcare system. It's not a massive healthcare system, but it's a healthcare system. And so where it's no longer Dr. Una doing things, but I've built a system where things are done the Dr. Una way and it's working. Yep.
Okay.
And it's kind of an idea I try to sell people. I'm like, what we can do is amazing. But once we can build a system that does what we can do, I think that's much better. So my practice, I think of it like a lab where I'm just building the Dr. Una way and letting it go on without me. It's pretty fun for me. I feel like an engineer.
Yeah, no. I'm just curious if you can.
Yes.
Maybe you say, no, you got to come. This will be a good segue into part 2. But when you say the Dr. Una way, what is the Dr. Una way?
So for instance, that's a great question. I'll explain what I mean by that. So if you think about it, for me, when I started seeing patients, I brought on a new doctor. People would say, I only want to see Dr. Una. And in the beginning, I was like, it's just my personality, it's who I am. They just want to see me. And then later I thought about it. I was like, that's not true. Like, I know I'm special. It's not that kind of special, right? There must be a reason why they're saying that. So I started this process, which is like unscrambling the spaghetti in my head. Like, what is it that you do? We call that unconscious competence. There's something you do that make people want what you do, but you may not be aware of what it is. So I started thinking, I was like, okay, what is it that you do? I was like, when I go into the room, I control the room, right? Like, so I go in, sing song voice, good morning, all that stuff. So even if you were sad, mad, angry, whatever, this is the way we're going to be in this room, right? Yeah, you're on Una time. So I control the room. The second thing is I make everybody feel seen. And I do that by complimenting every parent. Like, I had to think of, like, what is it that you do? I compliment every parent. So I'm like, either your hair is beautiful, like, oh my goodness, mom, you dressed this kid like this, or whatever. Like, and it's not fake. I look for something. It only takes 30 seconds to find something. And I compliment them, right? And then the third thing I do is I make sure all the what I would consider the routine things, like I'm able to obtain the information in such a way that it doesn't waste my time, so I can focus on what they really want. So for instance, I would ask them, how many ounces of juice, of milk does Johnny drink a day? And then the mom is like, well, when I get back from work at 2 a.m., he drinks this. And then after that, he takes a nap. And I'm like, we could spend this time talking about what's really important. We don't have to be adding up the milk here. So then I had all these forms created. Fill that out in the waiting room. Like, so we don't have to do that in the room.
Right, let's get to the good stuff.
Let's get to the stuff you really care about. So I did that. And then the other thing was reassurance, right? Because it's pediatrics. There's so many things you tell the mom, the child is okay, right? So I had so many patients who would come like, oh my goodness, they saw my child in the ER yesterday and they said he has an acute upper respiratory tract infection and they didn't give him any medicine. And she's distraught, right? And I'm like, okay, mom, I apologize on behalf of physicians everywhere. What they meant is your child has a cold. You know what I mean?
I have one too right now. I had one yesterday.
So I then itemize those things. And then when I train doctors, I'm like, okay, these are the things. So when they say, I want to see Dr. Una, this is why. And you can do your version of it, right? But this is what they want, right? And the same thing with how do we get them out in a timely manner? There's certain things that, like, so that's the character of the practice, right? So that can be transferred. It may seem like it can't be, but it can be. It can be transferred. So when I talk about the Dr. Una ways, things like that is the wait times and all of that, is doing all the work while you're at work. For my doctors, in the beginning, I fight them. I don't give them remote access. I'm like, you can get all your work done at work. So when you go home, you forget my company exists, right? And so training on all of those things so it can function that way, right? Yeah.
It's like you've been asked that question before almost.
I thought about it.
Yes, you sure have. No, I love that. Every time I do a podcast, I have a moment where I'm like, oh, this is the gold. Like, this is the gold. And you've been good from the beginning, but that was the gold.
That was the gold.
All right, yeah. So now we're going to slide. We're going to slide into part 2 of the Dr. Una story. Now, for those of you who know her, none of this is going to be a surprise. For those of you who aren't aware of what she has been up to, she's dropped a few hints along the way, actually, as we've been talking. Like, they're little clues. So, Una, if you don't mind, would you describe what your, let's call it, I don't know what you call it, but I'll call it your additional focus is, and talk about what you produce in addition to healthy children in your community.
Borrow that. Like, I produce healthy children in my community. Yeah, I like it. So in this stage in my career, one of the core areas of focus for me is helping doctors build profitable practices, businesses, so they have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on their terms. And so when I look at all the challenges in the healthcare space, I know that physician entrepreneurship is a huge part of the answer. But, when I started off as an entrepreneur, I didn't have any training. So I thought I sucked at entrepreneurship. I thought this is not something I can do. For someone like me, who was a socially awkward, super shy, introverted introvert, who was not thinking about entrepreneurship, to run a thriving practice. And at this point, 5 businesses we're up to at this point. It just goes to show that anybody who wants to can. They just have to ditch the old playbook and get a new playbook, right? And so I launched a company called EntreMD, and that's where I serve physicians. We have served thousands of doctors, and we have watched people go from employed physician to running multi-million-dollar practices. We've seen this time and time and time again, which is so fun, right? Because it's a vision board for other physicians to know, like, oh, like I may not be one now, but I can become one.
You can do it. You can do it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm constantly, showcasing examples of what is possible. So we launched that 7 years ago at this point, believe it or not. And, we have, a podcast, we call it the free MBA for doctors. We've done books, we do workshops, we have the EntreMD Business School, and it's one purpose. We missed out on a business education completely. And some people say, well, I'm going to go do an MBA. And I don't have anything against MBAs. However, that's not the answer for the problem that we have. Because even if you go look on the website for most MBA programs, they will tell you, the people who come through our programs end up having jobs that pay them 6 figures, like some version of like 141,000, whatever. I'm like, you already do that. We don't need another certificate. We need to learn the skills that will help us build profitable businesses. And what I've noticed is if as a physician, if you can focus on making the transition from physician to physician CEO or physician owner, founder, if you can learn to build a dominant brand, if you can learn to build a revenue generation system, so you're no longer hiding from the money, you're no longer thinking money is bad, you're no longer thinking it's greed, you understand the way you understand a Powell's algorithm, how to create revenue. There's an algorithm for it too. And you know how to build profitable teams, you will thrive. You will thrive in ways that will blow your mind, and not at the expense of your time, not at the expense of your family, not at the expense of your fitness. Because I always say it, I'm not willing to build a business at the expense of my faith, my family, or my fitness. And so if I have this picture of an alternate reality where physicians are back in control, where physicians build thriving businesses, and these businesses are it's a vehicle, right? Like a business is not an end. They build thriving businesses that allow them help a lot of people. So they have a lot of impact, which is the reason why most doctors went into medicine anyway. So they have a huge impact while creating time freedom and financial freedom at the same time. And someone may say, they may almost think like I don't deserve it in a way. I'm like, if you can give up 10 years of your life and multiple 6 figures in debt to become a physician, that's your ROI. That's your return on investment, I think is A-okay. So, yeah.
And it's still, to me, and I say this as someone who's not a physician, it still seems to me to be the most intrinsically rewarding career anyone can ask for. Like, it is one of those things that you would do for free. And it's not that you do it for free, but you can't help yourself. You see a child who needs your help, and you can't walk away from that. That's not like you're always going to help. And that, to me, to be able to combine the thing that you will do with the thing you can't help yourself from doing, with the ability to make enough revenue to buy a house and send your kids to any school, and like that's the quintessential American dream. So every day, right now in particular, when pediatricians are waking up and feeling very strangled, feeling very sad, I'm like, oh, let's step back for a minute and realize how good it can be.
Yes. Yes. How good it can be. And you bring up something, right, that I talk about. So for instance, in EntreMD, I've never worked. And I say I've never worked because I'm doing what I would do anyway. Like you say, I'm doing what I would do for free. But what gives me the freedom to do it and the freedom to truly enjoy it is that I've built a business system around it. So I'm free to do it, right? It's because it's like
Right.
with the pediatrician. I love to take care of kids. I love to do this. This is wonderful. But now in order to be free to do it and to enjoy it and to like for it to be rewarding for your family to let you go to work every day, right? Instead of being home and all of that. If you have a business system around it, you have a way of making that profitable. If you have a way of making it fund your life, if you have a way of making it fund your time freedom, then you'll never, like, it's almost like never working, like ever, even though you are, because you're creating, you're helping people, you're making a difference, you're leaving a legacy, you're doing all of these things, and you're financially free. And so to anyone who feels like stuck in their practice, overwhelmed, there's this statement, and I never use it, which is, I'm just a lowly pediatrician, right? There's nothing lowly about being a pediatrician who feels like the system is against them and all of that. I am telling you that becoming a savvy entrepreneur is the fix for all of those things. I have the freedom to travel. I have the freedom to homeschool my 4 children. I have the freedom to, I had the freedom to start a whole other company that's serving a whole other subset of people because I got the business right in my practice, right? Like, so the answer, like, starting a practice doesn't make you a savvy entrepreneur. These are two different things. Becoming a savvy entrepreneur makes you an entrepreneur. And that's what we do. Yeah.
I know too many of your peers who started a practice before they knew what they were doing, or even understood they needed to make a change in their behavior. The sooner they understand they own a business, the easier it becomes.
No longer resisting reality.
So what do our listeners need to understand about EntreMD, and where can they find you? What are you up to lately? Tell me.
So we help doctors in so many ways, right? And so I will start with this. First of all, you're on a podcast platform, like you just want to put in the search bar EntreMD, ENTREMD, and then just subscribe. Okay, so you can have your MBA going on every day. We are like 510 episodes or so, somewhere around there. Lots of good stuff. We do that. We do workshops. Like we actually have, at the time this will go live, we have a workshop coming up December 8th to December 12th. And it's the Profitable Private Practice Workshop. And Chip, you actually love this because I spent time thinking, I said, okay, if private practice owners could only learn 3 things, if they could only learn, like, you don't know anything about business, but you know these 3 things, what are the 3 things you need to do to make your practice profitable? And it comes down to filling up your schedule, getting paid for the work you do, and building profitable teams. Like, if at the baseline, if that's what you master, you'll be fine. Now, you're going to have to learn other things. You'll be fine. So we have a workshop we call the Profitable Private Practice Workshop. And we do live trainings on these 3 things, right? Like, so we do that, and it's such a game changer. Like, people come out of that, and like the next month they're like, I doubled my revenue, right? Like, and stuff like crazy stuff. But it's so good. So we do that. Those are, free workshops to attend. It's entremd.com/workshop. And then for people who are like, I'm ready to go. Again, we started the Profitable Private Practice movement. And we did that because, again, it's these 3 things. So doctors come every week and they're just working on these 3 things. They give themselves the opportunity to work on their businesses, not in their businesses, which is where we tend to stay most of the time. And you're with your peers, and you're not coming to learn curriculum. It's like, here, this is what we're doing today. Do it.
Right.
And so that's a Profitable Private Practice movement. And for people who are like, I want to build a business that thrives, I want to build the teams, I want to build it in such a way I can exit from it and all of that stuff, then they come into the EntreMD Business School. So all of those things are on our website, and which is entremd.com. But if you're like, I'm not sure which way, you can just book a call with my team. It's entremd.com/call. and they'll walk you through it. We don't do high pressure sales. I'm still a pediatrician, and my team members, they started off in my practice and then came to EntreMD. We're still those kind of people. There's no high pressure sales. There's no offering you something that's not going to work for you or any of those things. The team will truly just go work with you to see where you are, what your goals are, what you want to accomplish, and then recommend the best, products for you. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what I think about all that. I think
that's
awesome.
What do you think about all that, Chip?
I do think, I mean, you're speaking my language. And I mean, you also know you're doing what is sometimes the hardest work. You're doing cognitive behavioral therapy because you're getting people to change the way they behave. All right. And it's hard. Just like when a family with an obesity issue comes into your exam room, you're like, I don't know if I can do anything because it takes major behavioral change. And a lot of people can't do it. And you know who's tough to change? Doctors. Doctors are really, really hard to get them to change because they've always been the smartest people in the room. They've always sat at the front of the class. They always got good grades. They've always worked harder than everyone else. And lo and behold, they find themselves in a situation where they are not winning. Like they are not getting an A on running the practice. And a lot of them they have all of the technical, academic capacity to do the work. They just don't sometimes have the emotional capacity. And the ones who get over that hill, and then they because it's snowing here today, who they can slide down the hill. That's awesome. That's like, it's like you have a whole second batch of kids.
Well, you know what? I will say thank you for saying that because it took me about 3 or 4 years to figure that out. Because I was like, so people say, oh, we'll help you start your practice. And then they'll give them checklists and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not what, the checklist is fine. But this person is stepping into a whole new game, and they don't know the rules of the game, and they don't know how to play the game. And it took me 4 years to go oh, you chose the hard path. You're not giving them the checklist. You're not giving them the practice in a box. You're helping them become entrepreneurs. That's the hard work. You know what I mean?
It is the hard work. And
it's the hard work.
And I would say that out of 20 people who say they want to be that entrepreneur, only 1 or 2 show up ready to go. And what the rest want is the results of being the entrepreneur, but they don't want to fire people. They don't want to hire people. They don't want to say no. They don't want to eat the frog. Mm-hmm. And, I always think as pediatricians, you have so much more skill, training, and experience working with families who are being forced to eat a frog every day. By the way, your child has this following life-changing diagnosis, okay? You've done that how many hundreds of times? And you go through it and you understand and you approach it with empathy, but then you also approach it with we're going to, now we have a problem. Now we have to find it. Here's how we're going to address it. And they don't put the mirror up and say, I have a problem. I have no patience. So but I'm not willing to go market myself. I'm not willing to go. I always what were you missing?
Is the resistance. Because the second we get out of the second we go I'm a great clinician. And because of that, I take great care of my patients. I'm not yet a great savvy entrepreneur. So my patients, which is my practice, not doing so hot, right? The second we come to terms with that and then decide I'm going to learn what is required because I've done this before, then we're able to take our experience from medicine and bring it into business. But until we get out of resistance, we won't be able to say, oh, I've helped a patient do this. This is what I did. Imagine me doing that for my business. We're not able to do that. So most people either for the marketing, they either resist it or they want to throw money at it. Oh, I'll hire this marketing company. I'll pay them $12,000, which they love doctors because they can send you reports that mean nothing and show that they're doing nothing. And you will know you're just going oh, great. They must be doing something. Right? Yeah. So yeah, once we get out of resistance, everything gets better.
Everything gets better. That'll be the title of the podcast. Once we get out of resistance. All right. Last question. All right.
Yes.
If you could speak to 2013, Dr. Una, and give her advice, what would it be?
2013, I was 3 years into practice. Yeah. I would tell her to dare every fear. Don't ever stop because you are afraid. Like, learn the skill, do it messy, do it afraid, but keep moving forward, right? So whether that's like, it took me a while to hire a practice administrator. I couldn't imagine that on my payroll. It took me a while to hire a doctor. I couldn't imagine that on my payroll. It took me a while to even start EntreMD because I was like, people think I'm crazy. I was ashamed when I started the EntreMD business school because I'm like, what do you mean business school? You've run exactly 1.5 businesses and you don't have a business degree. What are you doing? Like all of those things, I stalled. Like I was saying, like PCC, it took me 2 years to sign up, right? And it's all fear. And the faster I'd overcome the fear, the faster I would move. You know what I mean? And so I would just say the fears, they're not real. You'll eventually get over them. But how about instead of 2 years, it's 2 months? You know what I mean? Right?
Save yourself the time. Like speed things up.
Yeah.
The practices I know who approach running their business with abundance mindset and investment mindset are so much more successful than the ones who approach it with a scarcity mindset. How can and the reason it took me, it took me about 30 years to realize why that happens. And it's because what did you raise your hand to say? You said first do no harm. And you bring your doctor philosophy, the thing you've been trained to do, which is to first do no harm, to not hurt anything, you don't take risks. You don't take risks with a 3-year-old baby. Like you just don't, or infant, okay? But a 3-year-old business, you can take all the risks. And the two hats, because you talk about, getting out of the way of resistance. I'm like, when you swap the hat and realize business owner is one personality.
Yes.
Physician is another.
Yes.
And if you can swap those hats quickly and realize where opportunity exists, where you can take risks as a business owner, that makes all the difference to me.
And for doctors who think of it in terms of risk, when it comes to business, I like to think of it as an experiment. Okay. Right? Because if it's an experiment, there's no real failure.
Scientific method.
Yeah, it's an experiment. We'll go try it, then we analyze it, then come up with a new plan and go at it again. So failure kind of loses, like failed projects, there's no real failure, but failed project kind of loses its sting because it wasn't a failed project. It was an experiment and we tested a hypothesis and that wasn't the right thing. Let's keep going.
The faster you do it, the less fear you have in the process, the faster you will get to the result. Now, I'm with you. As always.
We are with ourselves, Chip.
Yeah,
what's happening here? Thank
you so much for being here today. As always, you're a treat for me. I get all your mailings. All right. I watch everything you do. You know that. Like I see your stuff. I look at it. I'm thrilled to see someone, or I should say someone else, working with practices to keep them independent. I think it's so important. And just keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do for pediatricians. It was so fun watching you and Polly during the pandemic. Like literally it was a lifeline, right? For like thousands. It was so good. And it wasn't something that started during the pandemic. You guys have always done that and continue to do that. So thank you for all you do. The pediatrics as a whole is better because of you. And that's the truth.
Well, I appreciate that. But I tell people, look, you guys do the hard work. Polly and I just talked about it.
Listen, just take it. It is what it is.
I am very grateful. And everywhere I go, people to this day, and without exception, any meeting I go to that it has a pediatrician there, someone comes up and says, "Thank you. You saved my business." And I to be clear, this isn't me being modest. I didn't save any business. I didn't, but I helped. It was a small part of helping this collective understand that they weren't alone. And I'm grateful that I had that opportunity. It's nice. In the meantime, people send me nice gifts, so it all works out.
It's always good. It's always good.
All right. Well, we will talk soon, and everyone go visit EntreMD.com. And if you have any questions, Una is very easy to get.
She is.
She is. All right. Good night. Good afternoon, whatever it is.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Toodaloo.
Thank you for listening. More information can be found in our show notes. Production and editing by Chip Hart, Ali Squires, and Chris Forleo. Music by Challenger C. I'm Mark Herney.